Okay, so carrying on, now there's just one thing that we need to code, and this is actually the buttons. But if you hit play, there's actually a bug going on here. Check it out. I destroyed that one, and when the game's over, this one disappears, but it's not being destroyed. It's simply disappearing. It's still here. And notice one thing, if I bring the order in layer back to 1, it comes back. So it looks to me like this is a bug in Unity somewhere, but just so we can get rid of this, I'm going to increase the order in layer to 1 in all of these blocks that I create. And how do I do this? You can just come to the wood block creator script, and here's actually where we're creating each of these blocks. And the instantiated geo is basically the instantiated block, and it has a sprite renderer component. So we can access the sprite renderer component of each instantiated geo and put the order in layer to be 1. So how do I do this? Basically instantiated geo dot get component. The component is sprite renderer, and I'm gonna access the order in layer, or the sorting order in scripting, and set that to 1. So for each of the blocks that I instantiate, I'm going to grab the sprite renderer of it. I'm going to access the sorting layer and put that to 1, just in case. Okay, it looks definitely like a bug in Unity somewhere, and to bypass this, it looks like the best approach is just to increase the ordering layer to 1. So let's see if it works. There you go, it works. Okay, so we just need to code the buttons, and we can for sure click on them, but it doesn't do anything. So if you click on any of these buttons in the hierarchy, you can see that they have a on-click list. And if you click on this plus here, basically I want to add an event to this on-click list. It asks for an object and to run a function of an object. So what we can do here, we can go to our game manager script, and we can add a function that will be called by the button when it gets clicked. So this function needs to be public. It's going to return void because it's basically a procedure. It's something that we want to do inside this function. It doesn't have to return anything. And I'm going to call it load game. And this is basically going to load the same scene that we're already in. So it's going to do application dot load level, and the level I want to load is game. So now let's go back to Unity and let's click on this play again button. This play again button has to trigger this function called load game. This function load game is inside the game manager script, which is inside this game manager element. So you need to drag in the object where the function is. Basically, this is kind of weird, but it makes sense. So I'm going to drag the game manager object in this option here. This is basically the element that's going to contain the script where the function I want to call actually is. And here in no function I can expand this. Let me just disable the image and the transform so I can see. So I want to call a function inside the game manager script, and the function is load game. It's pretty easy, right? So I want to invoke this function here, but before the button actually knows where the function is, we need to pass the game object where the script is, and this is the one. And then it can have access to the game manager, and it will see that the game manager has a few functions, including the load game function. And now when you hit play, let's try to get the game over screen, which is not hard at all. And if you hit play, boom, it starts all over again. And it's working. It's pretty simple. One nice thing about these events is that they can get attributes. You can pass attributes to the events. Let's say that I want to create another function, and this is going to be a little bit more generic. I want to say load scene. So to load a scene, I have a typo here. I need to say which scene I want to load. And the scene is passed in by a string. So I want to say string scene. So when this function is called, I want to load a scene, load a level, and the level is given by this parameter called scene. And here, if you go back to Unity, and if you change this function to be the load scene function, you can see that it has a parameter, and you can pass in the parameter through this event call. And this is awesome because you can reuse the same function for different scenes that you want to load. In this case, I want to load the game scene. Okay, so when you hit play and you go to the game overview and then you hit play again, you can see that we have pretty much the same effect, because the parameter scene worths game in that call. Okay, so you can pretty much get rid of this one because we have a more generic approach that we'll be able to use in our main menu scene. And for that, I'm just going to create the scene that's going to be our menu. So I'm going to save this one, file, save scene, create a new one, file, new scene, save this one to be our main menu, even though there's nothing here yet. So I'm going to call it main menu. Okay, so now inside our game scene, let's go to assets, double click on game scene. I want to actually edit the event for the back to main menu button, and I want to do pretty much the same thing. I want to add an event, the game object where the function is the game manager. So the game manager has this game manager script which has the function load scene. And instead of passing game, I want to pass main menu because this is the scene I want to load. And when I hit play, let's get to our game over scene pretty quickly. And if I hit close, it doesn't work, but it's a pretty simple error to be solved. Each scene that you have in our game that can be called, it has to be present in this build settings tab. And to open this build settings tab, you can go to file, build settings. And all the scenes in build must be present here in order for they to be able to be called in the application at low level. So what you actually need to do is basically drag in all the scenes that you want to call in your game. So let's start with the main menu and then the game. And this is pretty much it. And the order here is important because the first scene that's here is going to be called when the game runs as a standalone file. So leaving the main menu as the first scene means that the main menu is going to be the first scene when you actually open the standalone version. And now if you hit close and hit play again, it should be working just fine. There you go. We open up the main menu. There is no ways for us to go back to the game scene just yet, but in the next video we're gonna deal with this. So in the next video we're gonna deal with the main menu interface. So this is it for this one.